The restaurant was dimly lit and smelled faintly of rosemary, lemon, and expensive red wine. It was one of those trendy downtown spots with exposed brick walls and Edison bulbs that cast a warm golden hue over everything. A soft jazz band played in the corner, and silverware clinked gently against porcelain as guests leaned into their quiet, low-lit conversations. I had just settled in for what I hoped would be a peaceful Friday night. My friends had bailed at the last minute, but I decided to stay and enjoy the reservation. I'd brought a book with me, a rare luxury in my normally chaotic life, and the idea of a solo dinner with good food and no small talk was something I was genuinely looking forward to. The server brought over a glass of Pinot Noir and a warm smile. "Your duck confit will be out shortly," she said. "Perfect," I replied, setting my book down and taking a sip. That was when I heard her. "I demand a different table," said a voice behind me, sharp, nasal, and slicing through the relaxed atmosphere like a buzzsaw. I turned just slightly, not wanting to be obvious, and caught sight of her. Platinum blonde hair teased into stiff curls, a loud leopard print blouse clashing against bright white pants, and in her hand, a glass of red wine tilted precariously as she gestured dramatically toward the host. "I'm not sitting next to the kitchen," she snapped. "Do I look like someone who eats by the swinging doors?" And the host, a young man who couldn't have been older than 20, gave a polite smile. "Of course, ma'am. We'll find you a more comfortable table in just a moment." And then it happened. She turned, stepped backward, and her elbow connected squarely with my glass of wine. It exploded across my chest like a burgundy firework. I froze. My shirt, white linen, was instantly stained. Deep red blotches spread like ink through water, soaking into the fabric and dripping down into my lap. The woman, Karen, though I didn't know her name yet, spun toward me. "Oh," she said, blinking at the mess she'd made. "Well, maybe you shouldn't have been sitting so close." I stared at her, stunned. My mouth opened slightly, a dozen different responses piling up behind my lips. But I couldn't decide which one to use first. She didn't give me the chance. "Honestly," she continued, waving down the host again, "people really should be more spatially aware. I could have broken that glass on my hand." I looked down at my soaked shirt, then at the nearly empty glass now lying on its side, then back up at her. "You spilled your wine on me," I said slowly, trying to keep my tone calm. She raised an eyebrow. "I barely touched it. And anyway, accidents happen. You don't need to glare at me like that." "I wasn't glaring," I replied, trying to suppress the heat rising in my face. "I was just surprised." She crossed her arms. "You should apologize." I blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "You startled me. That's why I bumped the glass. If you weren't sitting there so stiff and weirdly still, I wouldn't have flinched." The host, still hovering awkwardly nearby, looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "I'm going to get the manager," he mumbled and walked off quickly. Karen turned to me again. "Look, I don't want to escalate things. Just say you're sorry and let's move on." I was speechless. I looked around, half expecting someone to jump up and say I was being pranked. But no one did. And Karen? She stood there, arms folded, wine-stained evidence soaking into my shirt, waiting for an apology. The manager arrived within moments, her face a tight mask of concern and customer service fatigue. "Is there a problem here?" she asked, addressing both of us but looking more intently at Karen. Karen was quick to jump in. "Yes, actually. I was trying to move out of the way when he—" She gestured at me. "Startled me and I spilled wine all over his shirt. I think it's fair to say we both share some responsibility." The manager turned to me. I didn't say anything right away. I just slowly stood, giving her a full view of my now completely ruined shirt and the red stains spreading across my khakis. "I didn't move," I finally said, I was sitting quietly at my table when she spun around and knocked the glass out of my hand. The manager glanced between us. "Do either of you need first aid?" she asked, ever the professional. Karen snorted. "Please, it was barely a splash." I looked down again. My entire front was soaked. It looked like I had been in a paintball war. The manager sighed. "All right, sir. We will of course cover the cost of your dry cleaning, or I'd be happy to comp your meal." "That's not the issue," I said, finally feeling the frustration boil over. "She just demanded I apologize. After doing this—" Karen rolled her eyes so hard it was a wonder they didn't fall out. "He's being dramatic. I have a dinner to get to. Can we just move on from this?" The manager hesitated, as though calculating whether pushing back would make the situation better or worse. "I'll take care of this," she finally said, giving me a soft look. "Please, let me bring you another glass and a new entree." Karen walked off without a word, her heels clacking like gunshots on the tile floor. She didn't even glance back. The manager followed shortly behind, but not before quietly slipping me a gift card. "For the trouble," she whispered. I sat back down, unsure whether to laugh or just leave. And then, just as I picked up my napkin to blot the edge of my sleeve, I heard Karen's voice again, coming from the table right behind me, louder than before. "You know, some people are just desperate for attention." I exhaled slowly, trying to focus on my food, or what was left of it. But the energy in the room had shifted. I could feel eyes flicking in our direction, lingering stares from surrounding tables. The illusion of peace was shattered, and it was only getting worse. Karen had made it her mission to narrate the rest of her dinner like she was hosting a reality show, complete with passive-aggressive commentary. "They really just let anyone in here now," she said, cutting into her steak. "I remember when this place had standards." Her voice was just loud enough to carry. Her friend, or maybe reluctant dinner guest, mumbled something I couldn't catch. Karen replied, "Oh, please, if he didn't want attention, he wouldn't be sulking in a wine-stained shirt." I clenched my jaw. I had reached my limit. I stood up, turned around, and faced her directly. "Would you like me to move tables?" I asked. "Because it seems like you can't stop talking about me." She smiled sweetly, wine glass in hand. "You're more entertaining than the jazz band." I glanced over her shoulder. Her wine glass, full again, hovered a little too close to the edge of the table. And in that second, an idea formed. A petty, ridiculous idea. One that would take only a flick of a wrist. But before I could decide what kind of person I wanted to be in that moment, a server tripped nearby. A tray tilted, a wine bottle slipped, and Karen turned, just in time to get drenched in a splash of red wine. She gasped. The whole restaurant went silent. And then, her eyes locked on me. Her mouth dropped open, wine dripping from her forehead, running in crimson streaks down her designer blouse. For a full 2 seconds, the restaurant stood frozen. Waitstaff mid-step, diners mid-bite, all suspended in awkward disbelief. Then came the eruption. "Oh, my God!" Karen screeched, leaping to her feet like the floor had shocked her. "This is an attack!" Everyone flinched at the volume. Even the jazz band faltered. The poor server, wide-eyed and stammering, stepped forward, mortified. I'm so sorry. It slipped." Karen rounded on him like a blood-soaked tornado. "You ruined my blouse! This is silk! Do you even know how much this cost?" He looked ready to cry. "I'll get the manager." "You'd better do more than that," she spat, blotting her front with a white cloth napkin that instantly turned pink. "I want your name. And his," she added, pointing at me. I blinked. "Why mine?" "Don't play dumb," she snarled. "You planned this. I saw your face before it happened. You were going to do it yourself, weren't you?" My lips parted. You think I used telekinesis to hurl a bottle of wine at you? Her eyes flared. This is harassment. The manager reappeared, rushing over. What on earth? He did this, Karen yelled, thrusting her wine-soaked finger toward me. The manager frowned. Ma'am, our server just told me it was an accident, a very unfortunate one. Karen wasn't listening. I'm calling the police. I want this man arrested for public endangerment and emotional trauma. I've never been treated this way in my life. She whipped out her phone, red-streaked fingers smearing the screen. And as she did, something inside me shifted. I realized something. Karen wasn't just unreasonable. She was dangerous. Karen pressed the phone to her ear, pacing in a circle, red wine dripping onto the tile. Yes, officer? I want to report an assault, she said, glaring straight at me. Then she froze. Her face paled. Wait, you're... She lowered the phone slowly, eyes locked on mine. You didn't tell me you were recording this. I didn't say a word. I just smiled and tapped the blinking red light on my chest pocket.